So yeah, you're not gonna catch me checklist. That's a bad bet.
What a time. What a time. We're recording on the day when Dookie Dash is closing. It's coming to an end. All my scores are deleted, not for cheating reasons, but I revoked the wallet accidentally on Delegate Cash. So I had to put in some time last night, swerving through the bowels. Had to throw some extra ape coins. Shout out all my bag holders. You're welcome for my stupid mistake. And today, man, what a great event that they put on. But we went through a couple metas in 3 weeks. Just like the TL was all total scores. The TL was all about scores and gamers. And then it switched to art and Jack Buchecki, making sure people not waking up bagless. Where's your head at right now?
Yeah, my head is in that original track, the Garden Jack track by artist Good Month ETH, man. I want to talk about that because honestly, I vibe with that song. And I want to think, get into your head a little bit about what inspired you to make that. And, this whole process of like thinking about the checks, getting into it to the point of writing music about it, and then aping in, and not to mention on that last episode, we talked about you picking up check number 32. At the time, the floor was 1 ETH. You came in and sniped that at 4.6 ETH. Now the double digit floor is like close to 10 ETH. And it's only been about a week. So where are you at on the checks, my guy, and the track?
Man, we're going there. I didn't know. Yeah, so I mean the song. I mean, it happens, right? I've put out 4 songs. All of them have been at good timing, except for one. I think I put out a Pepe's at the top, so that was the top caller anthem. But other than that, man, it's just sometimes you go through these waves of inspiration when you're looking at a collection and you're hearing people talk about it. And I think one of the things that I'm blessed with is that I'm a student of sentiment, and so I could read the internet. I'm not someone who puts out viral content. I'm not someone who can command a room on Twitter Spaces and things like that, but I can read the room of the internet when it comes to Twitter and when it comes to pulses pretty well. And I could tell that emotions were getting evoked. And then, when I feel those things, they land with me, they inspire me a bit to put it into my form of expression. And it's always been writing raps, writing poems, things like that. I'll just walk around the house and I was just like, man, that's a bad bet. Waking up checklist. Like I just kept playing with like bad bet being checklist, and the flow, the alliteration, things like that were just like I couldn't get it out of my head. And it actually creates a little bit of a mimetic effect because you're running around the house singing about this stuff so much you can't stop thinking about it. It's the same way of looking at apes. When you're shopping apes and seeing the pictures, you do it so much you close your eyes and all you can see is apes. That's where I was in April of 21, just looking at apes whenever I shut my eyes. And that's how it works with these lyrics. You just start to convince yourself. You start to distill the conviction. I don't know, this might be a little too personal, but personally, it's me on the Peloton. Like it's deep in the 20-minute of that Peloton on a deep uphill climb. That's when I look at my Peloton's over here. That's when I look at my neon light over here, and I just tell myself, like, make it happen, manifest it, like buy that bag, ape and go hard. And so that's how it happens.
Sometimes you got to let the subconscious do its thing. And you have an interesting perspective because, you're talking to builders in Web3. You also speak to a lot of collectors in Web3 and also kind of gather general consensus. So when you're having those moments on the Peloton or wherever, you got to kind of let your subconscious do the talking sometimes, because there's a lot of things you're picking up that you may not realize. So, with that, we got the Dookie Dash coming to a close here today as well. And that's going to be interesting to see how these sewer passes trade in a secondary. And another topic that we talked about earlier on here in the series of episodes is Polygon. We talked about it when the announcement that y00ts was going to be bridging to Polygon came out. At the time, Polygon was trading under $1. And that was just, that was a handful of weeks ago. And here we are. It's ever since then, it's been up, man. It's at $1.30 in that range. And, in general, I feel like the sentiment around Polygon is also shifting. They've done a fantastic job of onboarding various brands like Starbucks, Nike, Reddit. And I think this is an area that we need to dig deeper on and keep peeling the layers back and learn more about Polygon and what the team's up to. So we're going to have a special guest on the episode today, the president of Polygon Labs, Ryan Wyatt. He is somebody that definitely can give us a little bit more alpha on what's going on with Polygon and some of the work that they've done and the brands that they've onboarded. And we are seeing that Polygon's daily active wallets is really surging past a lot of the other tokens in the space. And we have to attribute some of that to the brands that they've onboarded and the gaming and all of this. So before we bring Ryan on, Good, what are your thoughts here about kind of like what we would like to hear from Ryan today, or what specifically you have questions about?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the chains to date, Bitcoin, Ethereum, they're L1s, Polygon's an L2, and Polygon's really focused on biz dev. And it seems to be the thing with L2s, focused on biz dev. L1s are typically focused on building the technology and making sure everything sounds scalable, and it's a network effect. But Polygon has really been leading the way with business development and customer acquisition and brand acquisition. So a little bit of a different ball game. You don't expect Vitalik and the Ethereum organization to go out there and sell the technology to brands. That's really seems to be what Polygon is leading the way with. I think I'm really excited to get into that, specifically with the way, their biz dev team thinks about onboarding youths. Also along the lines of like the technology hive mind that they have over there and integrations with ETH, like in a multi-chain world, what's their role and how do they see themselves? I think that's what I'm most excited to get into.
So without further ado, let's bring Ryan Wyatt from Polygon. Ryan, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here, man. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to get to know you a little bit better. Can you tell us a little bit about what you were doing before you joined Polygon?
Oh, I was just a Web 2 normie, an uninitiated Web 2 normie. So I've been at Polygon a year now. Before Polygon, I started the gaming vertical at YouTube and led that for almost 8 years. Gaming is a multi-billion-dollar business for YouTube. I was in the creator economy basically my whole career before that, Machinima, Major League Gaming. I actually don't have this story of reading, the Bitcoin white paper and, it changing my mind. Where I actually really started to get interested in the space on a personal level was 21. Just with, honestly, NFTs, right? I just really started to get excited because I'm a hardcore gamer and I game a lot, even still to this day. And I see how much like I spend in some of these economies, and then I don't own any of this stuff. And my whole thesis was just, as people are spending more thing on digital items, they're going to want more ownership rights and autonomy over them. That's when people are like, NFTs, have you heard of them? Like, what is that? What are you talking about? And that's where I really got into everything and like, oh, what is everything, when it's on chain, when you have this level of transparency and what can you do? And that's where I went down the rabbit hole. Then what happened is you start to appreciate all of the elements of the space, right? It's like, how do you get in? And it really started in this very specific mindset of digital ownership rights. You had most of the people that had gotten into the space for a variety of different reasons, whether it's kind of their like belief in decentralized finance or what can it do for, equitable access into finance. There's a lot of great other entry points. And I feel like there was this class of people that came into Web3 because of digital ownership. And I'm in that bucket.
Yeah, totally. It's funny. You and I kind of have come at it from different angles because I actually came from the security privacy side. So right. I came from the privacy security side, really geeked out on that. And I wasn't a gamer, but as 21 hit, NFTs slapped that image on a token. And I started seeing Zed run and I started seeing the gaming capabilities, and it brought me over to the gaming side. So it feels like you and I just crossed paths we like met in the middle on two different sides of the chasm. which is
Fun how
fascinating.
that stuff happens too, because like even joining Polygon, our chief legal officers from spent a ton of time at DYDX, right? And then we have our chief policy officer started from Aave, and then you've got people like our COO who's at EA for 20 years, didn't touch anything in blockchain, right? So you start to see, it's really fun to see how all these people kind of come into it in a different way, and that's their anchor. But then you have this broad appreciation of all of the things that it opens up. So I've
Yeah.
loved meeting people for that reason alone,
Yeah, the diversity and backgrounds in the space, it's burgeoning.
Huge.
It's wild. Like, so I got to ask, since joining Web3 personally, like what's changed most with you?
Oh, I'd say a decent amount, right? Just because I think the one thing when you're leading a contributor group that's basically contributing to this decentralized protocol on Polygon, the way that you have to think about everything, literally everything, is so fundamentally different from Web 2. In Web 2, you think wall gardens, right? And so if Web 2 was running, like Polygon, it would be like, oh, we have the protocol, so we should own the marketplace, we should own the wallet, we should own how people build games on it, we should own it's a very like we should own, right? And it's like really bad. And that's fine, whatever. I worked at Google. That's how it is. That's just how tech had worked for a long time. When you're going into this group and in Web3, you're like, how do we give away everything? Like all of the value, how do we get people building on the platform? How do you get supporting the marketplaces and the wallets so they can build businesses on top of the protocol? Just like you have to reorient your mind in a very different way. And so for me, I think it's really different now. Some of the A, B's, and C's of running the team and scaling an organization and trying to be really efficient, but fast and outcome oriented, but still a process. There's a lot to learn from, my previous days to implement there, but it's finding the right balance. So, as I reflect on kind of year one, there's a lot that I'm proud of, but there's certainly things that were great learning experiences for me. And I think a lot of it is how do you find the balance between all of these things in the right way?
Yeah, and you hit on a great point, like differentiation between Web 2 and Web 3. We hear Web 2 versus Web 3 all the time, but what we don't hear is from the internals of a company. Yeah. Web 2 is build versus buy. Web 3 is build and connect. Like it's a different kind of mantra there.
Yeah, I think for me, so much as the wall garden aspect. It's just, a lot of Web 2 is how do we get as many users into this thing? And then how do we monetize this thing for everything that we possibly can, right? And so obviously Google famously doing it with search and ads, or YouTube doing it with just the creator ecosystem and the ads that run through it. And so when you're building this protocol and you're like, how do we launch something and then help, bootstrap and jumpstart an ecosystem so that everybody else can find success on it. So I would say you're just like, what do we do? And how do you operate, as a team when your whole goal is to no longer exist, right? In some form in 5-10 years as a contributor group, right? Contributor groups, they go down right over time, because that's the whole point. The protocol is autonomous. It runs with all of these people that are contributing into it in a variety of ways, whether they're staking and they're verifying transactions, or they're doing NFT projects on it, or they're running tokenizations for institutions, there's a bunch of different things that are happening in the space. And you're just like, how do we prop it up so these people can run forever? And success is, in my mind, is like when, this contributor group is no longer needed. And each year that will get closer and closer. Now, we don't know, is it 5, 10, 15 years? I have no idea. This space, you asked me pre-FTX, I had a whole different answer than now, right? So I don't know. My conviction is the same. My belief is the same. I struggle to articulate the exact time frame when all of these things are firing on all cylinders and clicking. But you just fundamentally, to your original question, you just think of everything has to be thought of differently. Hence why there is the memes and comparisons to the Matrix and stuff. You're taking this pill, whatever is basically all wrong, and we're going to start from scratch. And there is some, comedic truth to all of that.
Yeah, so you're in the Matrix. We might be in the Matrix. Not everybody's in the Matrix. And it's no secret that your business development team has been on fire, just bringing some of the biggest brands into the space and onto the chain. And so there's got to be a big learning curve there for some of these brands. Can you speak a little bit to that learning curve and some of the pains of maybe bringing a traditional Web 2 big brand into Web 3?
Yeah, so a couple things on kind of that whole strategy and thought process. A year ago when I first started, I kind of looked at the space and it was PFP NFTs were obviously crushing it, right? This is, truly it was ripping across the board, and that was pretty much only ETH and Solana that were capturing that. We didn't have any of the on ramps, right? So OpenSea around that time was just supporting Polygon, and that was like pretty much it for major marketplaces. And then, Polygon was so cheap that worked for it well for gaming, but like minting projects, like, well, it's so cheap, you get all kind of stuff, right? Good and bad or whatever. So we swam upstream and we're like, you know what? If Web3 is just PFP projects, then this stuff is like, it's a wrap. But, it just has to be bigger than this for it to take off, right? I think everybody agrees with that, even with PFP being kind of the heart of all of it. It's like, it's got to be bigger than this. So we swam upstream and focused on enterprise Fortune 500. That was obviously a space I personally have known really, really well, and was like, here's what we're going to do. We had all of these great Web3 native folks already working at Polygon that had done all this great work, in the space and so forth. And I wanted to bring on more people from Web2 that were Web3 curious, didn't really know Web3, but were interested to make the jump over to the space, put these people together. And over time, like, they can learn from each other. They have like very complementary strengths and weaknesses. It's like you've got Web2 folks with 20 years of exec experience. They don't really understand Web3 ethos yet. Then you have this generation that is like literally going to live and breathe it and spawn the next generation of, I call it more of a feature set of the internet, but whatever you want to call it, right? And so getting those two groups in a room there's a lot of friction there as well too. I don't want to be like naive, but long term, the investment worked out, because when these brands come in, they're, sometimes they've already made the decision they want to be associated with ETH. They're just like, there's users there, there are developers there. Other times they're probably maybe talking to an alt L1, or they're looking at the whole space, or they don't have this kind of like base layer thesis. But what was unique about us is just we had that team where we could take them at the point of entry, help them they could relate to us because of our background. They felt safe because you had all these Web3 authentic folks. The combination of you come in the funnel from this, we're going to help you with technical implementation. We're going to help you go to market. We're going to help you be authentic, and then help you launch your project on Polygon, the protocol, right? And so I think that was a very unique team that we had structured. I don't think it's going to be unique long term. Like, if I think 24 months from now, 18 months from now, there will be other folks. The teams will start to build how Polygon built, where it's this combination of folks and that layer. I think there will be a little more of that. And so I think long term, ultimately, a lot of decisions on where people build is going to be tech related. I think we haven't dealt with that much up to this space. It's like Polygon's POS chain definitely gets the job done today. It's not going to be our scaling solution in the future. A lot of these TPS claims, okay, right? Like, until we get volume, and people start building and transactions happening and all of this stuff, everybody can say whatever they want, Polygon included. But that was why I think, like, moving forward, we have this period of time where great BD will drive a lot of impact, but you're going to see a rotation into tech. It might be 6 to 12 months from now. That's why we're excited about our ZKVM launch. That's kind of our scaling solution. Others will have other kind of things coming out, as you see. But yeah, long-winded. That's kind of how we're setting up. And then, it did well. And then there's a network effect. Solana benefits from the network effect of PFP projects. ETH does as well, right? So we've tried to like kick off network effects. And so doing it in DeFi, doing it in enterprise, right? We're doing it even with Utes with PFP, right? You've got to have some kind of thing that you invested that like starts the fire and then allows it to really like build. And so Starbucks was that, loyalty and rewards. Then you have partnerships like Nike that just are like, well, all the big brands are there, so I'm building on Polygon. Then with PFP, it's like, if we do this thing with Frank and Kevin, great with the creator community. They know how PFP projects can be successful. People are like, oh, to bridge it. It's like, we're not just migrating Utes over to Polygon. It's like Launchpad, have some creator support for all these projects that are building on Polygon, create this North Star for others to build on. So there's like a very explicit strategy we're running across all of these categories too.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And I think, something that we do at Good Month Labs, we have an app that we've incubated called Cake App, and we're just hell-bent on wrapping workflows for the enterprise for deploying NFTs and making sure that they can like put a non-technical resource on an application and manage it, because there's so many learning curves to crunch. So I'm really curious from your perspective, when you look at that friction between Web 2 and Web 3, you've mentioned that, like, we've mentioned your BD team's killing it. You've mentioned that it was huge for your launch strategy and having that beachhead. And then you've also mentioned that like technology is going to scale for you there. where do you think workflows fits in here? Like, what are some missing workflows for these brands to be able to drop in and take advantage of that scaling technology that you're really investing in for them right now?
I think there's like a variety of stuff there, right? Everybody's got a different way they're going to want to enter the space, right? Some are going to want to just do, like an NFT drop, like Porsche did, right? Then others are going to do Starbucks, where it's like, we're going to do Web 2.5. Like, we've got a plan with Stamps, which is their NFT, and it's okay to be Web 2.5. It's not like LARPing or anything. It's like we're going to do this thoughtful, methodically. No one's going to rush us. We're not going to get bullied into being like entirely on chain. We're going to be very thoughtful. Then you have people that are on like the creative and digital side that are figuring out their long-term 3-4 year digital strategy, and they're starting to enter in to the space. So for me, I'm like, it's very broad, right? And that's why I think it's important to have a team that is very customizable across all of these groups. Like the way that you're talking to an institution about tokenization versus TradFi versus DeFi versus gaming versus PFP versus big Fortune 500 is all very different. There's consistent themes across it, and it's very nuanced, right? And so I think for us, it's having vertical experts across the board on that can actually help with some of that, because it just changes from time to time. But long story short, I think it's, really think through meaningful digital strategies of why you need to put stuff on chain too, right?
Yeah.
Not just do it to do it. And then what amount of it needs to be on chain. Everybody has different variations of Web3 or decentralization purity, I guess you would say. I'm kind of like, not everything needs to be on chain. I like the idea of a subsection of it. For games, for example, marketplaces and economies can be on chain. The other stuff doesn't need to be. But then you got games like Pirate Nation, which are cool, where it's like literally every single thing you transact and do on chain, basically is on Polygon. Like even if you you do a quest, you craft an item, it's on chain, right? So I don't know if that makes sense or not, but that's a fun thing for us. We're in that exploration phase, right? Let's go figure it out.
Yeah. And just putting you on the spot here, like if you're talking to the full community of developers right now on Polygon, what are some top 2 use cases you'd like to point them to develop right now? Like on top of Polygon, you have these 2 use cases that you'd like to see them knock out the park. What would they be?
Yeah, I mean, loyalty and rewards is a category I think could be really interesting, because that stuff on chain becomes like you could do a lot with it, right? As a member, you see that I buy almond lattes at Starbucks, and then I get discounts at Whole Foods on almond milk, and that. Like I can carry kind of this identity around things that I do and whatever I'm comfortable, obviously being, open and transparent. Then even like with ZK and stuff, that you can go in a lot of different directions. So that's gaming, man. Gaming's a no-brainer, I think. Obviously DeFi, no brainer, if that has been very much illustrated this past year. So there's a bunch now. For me, I'm like kind of over the like, oh, what's the Web3? I'm like, there's plenty. Just like look up, and yeah, they got to materialize. We don't have the Amazon built on a protocol yet, but yeah, give it time.
All right. So a lot of people, including myself, are excited about y00ts. This was a big announcement that broke on Christmas Day about y00ts migrating to Polygon. And I guess the first question, Ryan, is, are you y00ted?
Oh yeah. I rocked mine out day of after we kind of wrapped that all up. Look, and I was like, so I use Sol to transact and everything, man. So I am, yeah. I've got it in a Polygon hoodie now though. So yeah. It's my Telegram profile picture. Still rocking Web 2 Ryan in my Twitter.
Yeah, so he's y00ted. I love to see it. So as a community member, and also in the position you are here with Polygon, if you could, drop one thing on Frank's roadmap here with y00ts, what's the hat that you would throw in the ring here for y00ts on Polygon, Ryan?
Yeah, first of all, Frank's the man, right? I love working with Frank. That partnership is awesome, right? And honestly, because I think Frank is such he's going to be so important to the creator economy in PFP projects. Like, so it already is, but as this thing gets bigger, he's going to be. And to me, why he really like struck a chord with me on a personal level was all my days at YouTube, seeing the people that are, I worked very closely with people like Mr. Beast, right? Saw Mr. Beast's whole career grow, right? Over the 7-8 years that I was there. And he gives me Mr. Beast vibes in PFP, right? Like gets the big picture, kind of very uniquely sees where it's going, doesn't have to like justify it and articulate it to everybody, kind of gets all of it. And so there's just like in my conversation with him, just a lot that clicks on that front. And so for me, my thing with him would be twofold. It's like, how do you leverage brands? Because we work with the biggest companies in the world. And I think Polygon very uniquely does. So what can you do with that? Whether it's Doritos or Nike or Instagram. I mean, the list goes on of where there's things that they could potentially do stuff with. I also think these brands getting to spend time with Frank will be really good for their Web3 teams. So how does like Ron Ferris, who runs like the digital team for Nike, spend some time with Frank? Like that's good for everybody. So I think him spending time is going to be great. I also think him just helping Polygon projects succeed as like a mentor and advisor to the space, to the community, will be great, and all ships rise. So that thing with Utes, I do that thing 10 out of 10 times. No brainer in my mind. No brainer at all. When you think about the strategy of, if you're going to invest in any project, because you can't invest in all of them, invest in the ones where you're jumpstarting a vertical and initiative. That is like your beacon for that initiative. So now people are like, I don't know what Polygon PFP things are going to, what it's going to do long term, but fuck, they got Utes and Frank. So, got to take them serious on what they do produce, right? That's the goal. That's why you do Starbucks on loyalty and rewards. They're literally the best company to have ever done rewards. It's why you do something with Frank and Utes. That's my long-winded answer.
I mean, Ryan, we've put Frank in the no fade zone prior to the Polygon announcement. So Frank is in the no fade zone of the never fade pod. You just put him God mode. So we'll take that clip and we love it. We love to see the dub.
Yeah. No, it's easy to do. I'm a big believer in him, and I'm excited to get to spend more time with him as well too. Trying to link up with him in Los Angeles here very soon. So yeah, I'm excited. And honestly, I'm just excited for the community. This is good. This is good for everybody. There is a multi-chain world too. I think, you're going to see like Solana and Arbitrum and Polygon and all these different chains will have their place in Web3. And that's good. That's good, right? Like, we didn't all join this space for it to be, one chain that we're all anchored around at the end of the day, right? So I'm excited for Web3, man. Like we've gone through a lot in 2021, but I think the future's bright, man. I'm super bullish on Web3. People are like, my family members are like, oh, you enjoying working in crypto after a year? And I'm like, I fucking love it. Like, what are you talking about? Right? Like, I'm like, you're getting you don't have any nuance. You're getting, Sam in handcuffs, on the news and stuff, but that's not our reality. Like, there's a lot of exciting stuff going on.
Yeah, I love that, man. We're bullish on Frank. We're bullish on you, Ryan. We're bullish on Web3 alongside with you. So maybe one last question I can throw at you here before we let you go. And you touched on multi-chain, and, we are kind of in a multi-chain world here. And one thing I noticed recently is the Phantom wallet is beta testing its Polygon and ETH integrations. Do you think, integrations like that will kind of improve the bridge experience for users moving on to Polygon?
Yeah. So a couple of things. One, Phantom's just super clean, like a product. Phantom's going to like, that team is good. Brandon's good. Phantom is good. Got high hopes from that team. And I actually think they can do a bunch on user journey. So clearly I don't think it goes without saying, user journeys in Web3, there's a lot to be desired on improving. But you have a bunch of people doing a bunch of different things to do that. So it's going to happen on an accelerated timeline, just because the capital and talent that's in the space, like, this is going to get much better. This idea of, you're in MetaMask and you're switching networks and you're like, don't know where to send things and yada, yada, right? And you're like losing money, sending to addresses, different networks, all this stuff like that's got to be abstracted away. And most likely the best place, and I'm not saying the only, but most likely the best place is probably to abstract it away at the wallet level. Because I think you can do a lot. Like, you could easily be bridging in the back, and all this stuff could happen very seamlessly in a wallet. And there's no doubt Brandon's got like a ton of work in that Phantom team to do that, but they're good. They're capable. So having more wallet support is, again, good for community, good creators, good for users, so forth. It's a big 22 kind of mission that we did. It's why we partnered with Magic Eden. It's a little bit of marketplace support, Launchpad support, PFP project support, like get that space going. Games as well, launched with a bunch there. So in general, yeah, I mean, we as a space have to nail the user journey. And I think we all have a piece of the puzzle to play in interoperability and how these things all work. And it'll take some time. Protocols have a level of responsibility. Wallets do. There's a couple different like entry points. But I think that's going to get better. I don't worry. I recognize it as the most important issue of the space. but I don't stress about it because I feel like it's actually, I don't want to simplify and say it's easily solved, but it's very solvable with the capital and talent that's in Web3 that I don't worry about it being solved, if that makes sense. Yeah, like bridging isn't like, who's going to do, you're sending it through on a Polygon, then you're transacting there. All that stuff gets seamless over time.
Yeah, I'm excited. I haven't had a chance to use the Phantom integration yet, but I had the same experience with Phantom. I felt like that was one of the things that kind of attracted me to using Solana. And so I'm thinking, okay, and then we see Polygon popping up on Magic Eden. We get the support there. We get the integration at the wallet level. Starting to see the pieces fall into place here.
We're laying out, man.
We're
the tracks
seeing
of the train are getting built.
Yeah, and so I also just big picture. I'm watching you and I'm watching your team really like shift the sentiment and the user journey. And I'm excited for what 2023 has to offer in a multi-chain world, including Polygon for sure. So with that, thank you so much, Ryan, for your time and your thoughts. Really appreciate it having you here on the Never Fade podcast. Good. Any last words for Ryan here?
Thank you, man. Keep killing it. We look forward to seeing the L2 rise to the tide. See the occasion and run with it, man.
ZKVM next month. Just remember, boys, thanks for having me on. It was awesome. It was good spending time with you guys.
Absolutely, Ryan. We'll chat soon.
Thanks, Ryan.
That's a wrap, Fax. What you think? What's your takes?
He's got great takes, man. This, I can see why he's been so successful. He's just like, bam, bam, bam. Ryan's got the answers. He's got the vision. I love to see it. What did you think about what he said about Frank?
Look, this guy doesn't know influencers. He knows Mr. Beast. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't know people who are popular and cultural and catch hot streaks and fade out. He knows people with sticking power. Like, I'm not going to say that Ryan Wyatt knows influencers. I'm going to say Ryan Wyatt knows how to work with the best. God mode. He put Frank in God mode.
Yeah. I think he called Frank young Mr. Beast is what happened.
Got to tune in this show to figure it out. But I think there's high hopes. The thing is, he called out his vibes. You love to see it. Someone who comes from YouTube or the Web 2 world and they pop in Web 3 and they actually lean on a business decision because of vibes. You guys, you can't fade that. It's authenticity in Web 3. You have it or you're going to get faded. And the fact that he calls out the authenticity and vibes of Frank, it means that it's a part of these business decisions that these Web3 L2s are making, these biz dev teams are making. They're placing their bets accordingly, and they're seeing exactly how the dominoes are going to fall. So for everyone on the TL who's like, vibes this, vibes that, early bake vibes, guess what? It's authenticity or get faded.
Yeah, man, I feel that. I like that episode. Hey, ZB, take us out with that Garden Jack track, man.
Ain't gonna catch me. That's a bad bet. Verifying everything. That's a bad bet. If the bags check less, about to burn back to back, flipping not cheap when that Jenny Duh hits. That's the race to 250 in the world, and you chose to sleep. That's a bad bet. If you wake up checkless, no more people without bags, yet they need status. Running head first with the VV check thirst. Never heard of a hearse, but they connecting the dots.